Today we're going to be going through my round 11 tips. Here's a timestamp for you guys to get straight into the tips. But before we do that, I actually want to address you with some pretty crappy news that has happened over the last couple of days. So you might be wondering, possibly, when am I going to release my gather round vlog? So what happened on the Sunday, as part of one of my tipping punishments, actually, I did the S&B North game in a library. And after that stream, something bad happened to my hard drive, which basically means I can't access any of the files on that hard drive. And what they contained is the gather round footage, the America footage, a couple other videos that I had planned, all my graphics for live streams, all the music. Basically, a lot of my stuff that I use for my channel every day is on that hard drive, and at the moment, I don't think I can get that footage and all that stuff back. Fingers crossed though, I'm still holding on to hope, but I thought I'd let you guys know. It's shocking news because I was almost finished that gather round vlog, but I'd address that. Some really disappointing news for myself and probably for a few of you guys as well, but that's, I guess, sometimes what happens. I've just had some shock and luck this year when it comes to just losing stuff and all that in general. But we move on and we'll review round 10. Definitely a flat start to this video, that's for sure, but we move on. And it was a good round at least. I did say 6 here, but I actually got a 7. I again forgot to tip on Thursday. I don't really know how I end up doing that when I'm doing my tips every week, but I did tip the Swans last week and they got up in a really good fashion. I mean, it was a massive 64-point win. I tipped the Swans to beat Carlton. Wasn't expecting that big of a margin. I tipped Collingwood. Had a feeling it would have been close. The Giants thought they'd get up against the Dogs. I don't know what's up with the Giants right now, but it's not looking great. I tipped the Lions. I tipped the Dockers. I'm happy with that tip because it's against the side that I support, and the Saints apparently were favourites. I tipped Essendon to put Adelaide, who just found a way to win. And then I don't really know what happened in this game. I didn't watch it, but Melbourne couldn't pull off the win. West Coast, another really random result at home. So 7 out of 9 I got. I know it said 6. I said I was going to tip the Joker as well, but because I forgot to confirm everything, it ended up just keeping itself. So I actually think round 11 I'll actually use the Joker because I think that's a lot easier of a round, and I still think I did pretty well in round 10. Alright, so 2 weeks to go before the mid-season prize gets awarded. Jakey H on 81, Butsy 80, Himash 79, Swan under 78, AFL Goat HQ's on 77. If you haven't used your Joker yet, do that if you want to have a chance of winning your mid-season prize. Alright, so with a Joker, only 3 people got a score of 8 with their double points. Magpies, Fat Bulldog, and Blue Bagger. We actually did have someone get a perfect score of 9. So you tipped West Coast, the Western Bulldogs. Congratulations to Lachlan. I can't see the full name there, but you got a total score of 9 with a bonus point of the 10. So well done, mate. Alright, we're taking a look now at the big calls from round 10. And since I needed 3, this just wasn't the week to not get the 3 because of what the punishment will be. I got 2 correct, so I said the Suns would lead for 75% or more of the game, and then I said that Dane Zorko would record 140 or more fantasy points, but I had a number of other ones that I had really close to getting right, such as North Melbourne kicking 12 goals. Collingwood Adelaide said both sides would win 2 quarters. So technically I'm going to allow the punishment that got the most likes. It got well and truly the most with 168, if you can see right here. The comment originally was to not cut my hair for a full year. I'm like, that's too extreme. Who's going to know if that's going to be completed after the deadline days? And what I'll do, I'll just make it so I can't cut my hair till the end of the home and away season. It's a pretty crappy punishment considering that I kind of needed a haircut and I'd never look good when my hair's like this, so I'm just going to look like a big dickhead for the next few months, but whatever, I guess we'll go with that one. Alright, well, let's get into the predictions now for the games in round 11. We start on a Thursday again. We don't have too many more Thursday games actually to go because after they announce a new fixture, they've gotten rid of all the Thursday games, which is a bit controversial. We've got the Dogs and the Swans at Marvel Stadium. The Dogs are in some pretty good form, to be fair, but still, with how good the Swans have been, there's a reason why 89% of the tipsters have backed them in. And, I mean, despite this game being at Marvel, and I feel like the Dogs actually do have a bit of a chance, not backing the Swans right now, given their current form and how dominant they've been, would be a bit of a risk. It's actually there at the SCG, and I do actually have, in a way, a bit of a match day vlog. I just don't know how I'm going to release it. It's a bit too late for that. But the Swans were really great. I mean, the Blues kicked the first 4 goals of the game, but after that, the Swans took control massively in that second quarter. They didn't really get much reward for the effort. They had a lot of missed chances. That third, they were absolutely dominant, actually converting. Warner had the brilliant first 3 quarters, it has to be said. Heaney again was great. Blakey was exciting. Rowbottom tackled hard. I think he got up to 11 at halftime. So, all of Sydney's key plays are really gelling really well right now, and they look to be definitely the premiership favourites. And then the Bulldogs are also finding a bit of form, some rare form given they've definitely been heavily scrutinised for the way they've been playing. They're 11th. Some are saying they're a top 4 seeding. I don't really know how they're still considered that at all. But who knows, maybe the Dogs, if they can get a good scalp over the Swans, they can be back in form. It was a weird game though. I didn't really get to watch much of it. The fact the Dogs kicked it 8 goals 22, they had a lot of chances to probably bury the Giants by more. But I think the Swans, I'm going to back them in. They should be too strong. I think they're definitely the better side, and I think they're going to go 9-1 and win the game in a decent one by 17 points. A big call for this one. I think there'll be 9 or more lead changes throughout the game. Alrighty, moving on to Friday night, and we've got Fremantle and Collingwood. The Dockers are the favourites, can you believe it? Yet only 28% of the tipsters have backed them in. I'm definitely planning on live streaming this game, whether it's with guests or not, I'm not too sure yet. But this is definitely going to be tough for the Dockers, because have they really pulled away with a big scalp yet so far this season when it comes to the top sides? I don't think so. They've lost against Carlton, Port, in close games, but they haven't really been a quality side, and this is their chance to do it, and at home as well should give them a better crack. They did make things tough for themselves, I thought, against the Saints, because I thought Fremantle for most of the game were better, and even at half-time with 3 quarters of them, I always just had a slight feeling Freo just had a bit more class. They were very inaccurate. I think they kicked 9 goals 18, so they could have put the Saints away earlier with a lot of missed chances. And yeah, definitely with a better side for longer, particularly after half-time, I thought. And then Collingwood, yet again, finding a way to win the close ones against Adelaide. I think Adelaide will just be completely sick of the Pies now, because they just keep getting done in close games against them. They got the win at the end in a bit of a controversial way. I thought Nick Dacos, apart from his average disposal efficiency, definitely provided the goods with 41 touches, him and De Goey. To be fair, he did kick the ball to De Goey, which ended up being the match winner. And now the Pies, if you have a look at all the form and all that, they haven't lost a game since the Saints game back in round 2. So it's been just about 7 or 8 weeks since they've had a loss, and they're looking like they're playing good footy again, back to their premiership best. So it's going to be hard, honestly, with the troops back that the Pies are getting, for me to see the Pies not competing here and putting in a good show. They've definitely got more scoring power, the Pies. I think they're the more quality side as well, and right now they're in some better form. So I think they're going to get the Chocolates away from home in a relatively solid match, but we're going to back in the Pies away from home to get the job done by 14 points. And I reckon Freo record 15 or less scoring shots as my big call. We move to the Saturday games. We start off with Carlton and Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. And both sides definitely had very lopsided results on the weekend. Just looking at the ladder right now, and the Suns are surprisingly ahead of the Blues thanks to their poor form they've had as of late. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy result, honestly, especially on that Thursday night when I watched that. Looking at the Gold Coast Suns, though, that was a massive win for them. One of their best in their history, if not their best, honestly, against a pretty decent side. Finally wanting to make a bit of a statement. Cats at the time, they were sitting second on the ladder. They ended up scoring a whopping total of 164, which was their highest score of all time. They had a few other records as well that I can't remember off the top of my head. And their midfield absolutely smashed the Cats. Anderson had 42, I think. Rao was massive. Miller was good. Flanders was good. And up forward, bloody Bailey Humphrey and Max King, I mean, they combined for 9 goals. So it was just a really dominant display from Gold Coast. They played that ground so well now, Teo Stadium. I think they've won their last 6 there. So too bad now for the Suns. They're not going to be playing there again. But hopefully that can lead them on to some success for this year. Maybe they could actually get them to finals. Could this be the win to kickstart Gold Coast legitimacy? Who knows, honestly. Carlton were really awful on the weekend. Despite kicking the first 4, they were just flat after that. You know, Walsh didn't have any impact through the Jordan tag. And I just feel like the defense, there are a few holes in the defense, a few injuries, players not playing their best. Sydney were just all over Carlton, really, in the midfield as well and up forward. Disappointing from Carlton. I thought they'd be better than that, much better than that, honestly, especially after that start. Should we expect a response? At Marvel, yes, I think you would get a response from Carlton. Against Gold Coast, I just can't trust the Suns away against a good side still. They played that game against the Cats. It was at Teo Stadium. Until they can actually record an impressive win away from home, I'm still just going to back in Carlton. I just think they're going to get a convincing, classy result, playing back to their best footy, and I think they'll respond with a solid win. Let's say the Blues get the job done by 26 points. The Suns will be goalless at any quarter as my big call. Next up, we've got North Melbourne and Port Adelaide at Blundstone Arena. North continuing their losing streak. It's a bit of a record losing streak now with 0-10 record. I mean, their next best chance of the win would be round 22, I think round 21 actually, where they play the Tigers. That'll be an interesting game. But till then, I realistically don't actually know if they're going to pick up another win. Like, you'd think some random occasion they would, but the more I see North play and the longer the weeks form without them getting a win, the less likely I genuinely feel like North Melbourne are going to pick up another win till they have that game against Richmond where they have a chance. I actually thought they were okay against Essendon when I watched that game in the library. They were actually pretty competitive for 3 quarters. Just that third quarter that made the scoreboard look pretty bad. I think Essendon kicked 8 goals to North 2. Even though the Bombers are flying at the moment, I feel like in the way this is a bit more of a tougher task for North Melbourne against Port Adelaide. They always seem to beat up the poorer sides, and North Melbourne particularly as well. How did they win last week? I don't know. I honestly didn't get to watch a lot of the game until the last 5 minutes. They were smashed for the majority of the game. They were down by 41 points. It was a remarkable scoreline considering it was the Hawks at the Adelaide Oval. You'd think Port Adelaide really would take control of that game. But obviously that goal from Rioli outside 50. And then Darcy Byrne-Jones with only a few seconds to go kicks along the ground. And, 2 goals in 25 seconds gave him the most unlikely of wins. I mean, they're now 7-3. But even despite the result, whether they would have lost, whether they would have won, it wouldn't have affected my tip realistically. I think Port Adelaide, even it's, being in Tassie, maybe North have a good quarter here or there, but I'm going Port Adelaide to win the game by 52 points. My big call, I'm going to say Port Adelaide lead for the entire game. Alright, next up we got Geelong and the Giants at GMHBA Stadium. This is definitely my pick of the bunch in terms of like the games on the Saturday, but possibly my pick of the bunch for game of the round. It's an interesting matchup to say the least, because both of these sides, after starting so well, are going so poorly with their form. I don't really know what's going on with both sides at the moment, but they're 0-3 in their last 3 games. But especially last week, they probably had the 2 most disappointing matchups they've had of those stretch of 3 losses. Start with the Cats. I guess they just couldn't handle the heat in Darwin, the heat of the Suns' pressure, and just the heat that you get in Darwin. They still end up scoring 100 points though, so I guess if you can take one positive out of that game, which there wouldn't be many, in a game that they were embarrassed like, then maybe that 100 points was something they can hang their hat on, that at least they were able to score half decently. But I thought it was their worst performance in quite a while. You just don't really see that often from a side as good as the Cats are. And after such a strong start to the year, they're in some desperate need to get a few more wins. Otherwise, their season's going to start slipping away and top 4 chances will be almost gone. Probably more concerning with their 0-3 form. They're losing to Sydney, Essendon, now the Western Bulldogs, but at home as well. I know the conditions were not great. I didn't watch much of the game, but scoring shots were quite alarming. 8 goals, 22. The Giants themselves only had 12. Now the Cats are definitely favourites. 84% are going for them. They have some key plays back. I think Cameron, I think Dangerfield, I think Hawkins. Pretty big ins. I'm still going to tip the Giants though. I think the Giants are the better team at their best this year, and I think they just haven't shown that for a while. At GMHBA Stadium, they actually play alright there. They've gotten a few upset wins over the last few years there. I'm going to say the Giants actually get a good upset win. So we're going to chuck the Giants by 7 points. This will be a good game, I reckon. A big call, the Giants lead by 30 or more points at any stage of the game. All right, we'll move on to Richmond v Essendon. Dreamtime at the G. The Dreamtime match always is a ripping spectacle, but I don't think it's going to be a great contest. The pre-game and all that, that's going to be awesome. Atmosphere's still going to be pretty good, you'd expect. Maybe not so much with Richmond, considering the way they've been going about it this season. Essendon is second on the ladder, and Richmond is 17th, so they're on 2 opposing ends of the ladder. It's a crazy sight seeing Essendon in the top 2. And I still don't think Essendon are playing their best footy. I mean, against North, they were really good in that third. And then apart from that, they didn't really get out of first, second gear. They were okay, decent. They did what they needed to do. But that 40-point win wasn't really that convincing. Luckily, they got Richmond now this week, so you probably pencil in another win. If they can beat good sides away from home, that'll really legitimise the Bombers. Still at the moment, I think for Essendon fans and all that, keep a lid on it. You could easily screw this season up and still not win a final. I feel like Essendon should be aiming for that, at least at this point onwards. As for Richmond, well, they keep on getting worse. It's a season that honestly couldn't come any sooner for the Tigers. It's definitely one to just write off. They probably will end up finishing last at this rate, because right now Richmond are probably the worst side in the competition. So that Richmond North matchup, as mentioned earlier, will be very interesting to watch. Pretty sure they conceded the first, was it 9 goals of the game against Brisbane at the Gabba. It was just remarkable how poor that start was for the Tigers. They lost by 119 points, their biggest loss since 2007. And right now for Richmond, it'll be very tough to find the light at the end of the tunnel. I think when they finally start getting some plays back from injury, because right now they only have like 26 fit plays, I think it should hopefully transfer to some more competitive performances, maybe wins. But right now against Essendon, I don't really see him having much of a chance. It's weird because before last year, they had a streak of 12 wins against the Bombers. Now I think that's going to start changing, where Essendon are going to start getting the wins against Richmond. And I think this is another easy tip. I'll go Essendon by 55 points. My big call, Cole Langford kicks 5 or more goals. So for the Sunday games, we start with Hawthorn and Brisbane at Marvel Stadium. This has maybe upset potential for the Hawks. And I feel bad for them because they had probably the most heartbreaking loss of all time, just about. It's the way I saw it. They were home with 40 seconds to go, and they still managed to find a way to choke that. That's worse than what St Kilda did against Port in 2017. Sam Mitchell, I'm pretty sure he just went way too defensive too early. Like, they're up by as much as 41. I think at 28 at 3/4 time, and from that point onwards, they were just playing, kick mark, chipping, slow footy. They didn't really want to go attacking. Port Adelaide saw that, and they went attacking themselves, thanks to the likes of Zach Butters and all that. And unfortunately for Hawthorn, they choked that game, which they really should have won. Credit to Hardwick though, he kicked 4 goals in the first, 5 goals for the game, so that's a good sign for Hawthorn, but hopefully they bounce back in a way, and I think they will. They're starting to play a lot better footy from the Hawks, and it's just very disappointing that they didn't win that game. Brisbane demolished the Tigers. What more can you say? I expected a big win. Not a 119-point win. I didn't think Brisbane were capable with all the outs they had to win by that much, but it's not going to happen against Hawthorn. I don't think this is going to be a game where any side really dominates. I think Brisbane, if they're legitimate here wanting to play finals footy, they're definitely going to want to win this game. And you just think on paper they should take care of the Hawks. I think because this game's played at Marvel, the Lions actually play quite well at Marvel, and the Hawks are a bit of a hit and miss side at Marvel Stadium, in my opinion. If this is played in Tassie, I'd probably back in the Hawks. I'm going to go safe. I kind of want to tip Hawthorn in a bit of an upset call, but I'm just going to go safe. Surely Brisbane can knock off the Hawks here. I think it'll be a pretty good close game of footy and a high-scoring one possibly as well. I'll say the Lions win it by 9. Sure, they don't screw this game up, and a big call. There'll be 10 or more goals combined in any quarter. Next up, we have Melbourne and St Kilda at the MCG, and, St Kilda's season is over. It's officially over now. It's officially put to bed after last week, and I honestly could see us finishing bottom 4 now if we continue the way we're playing. At this rate, I'm going to stop really caring. If we win, that's great, but if we lose, whatever. It's not like it's going to matter. We're not making finals, you wouldn't think. From the position we're in, we're 14th. And if you look at the Saints' remaining fixture, it actually isn't that easy. Midfield was very poor for the Saints. Forward line, again, ineffective. And it was just another dull, boring game under Ross Lyon. We've seen too many of those for the Saints. It's just, as a fan, you just don't want to be, you just want to see some fast attacking footy. You want to see the forward line moving well. You want to see the midfield getting enough of the ball, and that just didn't happen. I know Melbourne were also really poor. I don't get how they ended up losing that. I was meant to stream this game, but I cancelled last minute with what happened to the hard drive, and I just didn't feel like I had any motivation to even watch the game. I checked the scores when I got up after a nap, and I couldn't believe what I saw. I didn't think West Coast were capable of doing it against Melbourne, and now the D's have a couple of losses in a row, and they look like they're in a bit of a form slump themselves. So it's weird. I feel like the Saints are getting Melbourne maybe at a decent time. Melbourne seem to have that mid-season slump, but it is at the MCG, and I just can't really see the Saints winning this game considering the D's. You would think they'd bounce back against a pretty mediocre Saints side and can start playing back to their best footy. Again, it's not out of the equation for the Saints to win this game. The D's could be off like they were against West Coast again. With how bad the Saints have been, surely they'd have one half decent result. Will they actually play quite well? Could it be today? Maybe. It could be today. It's at the MCG. The Saints aren't too bad at the G. We beat the Pies earlier this season. But I'm not backing the Saints in right now. I want to be safe with my tips. If I'm going to use a joker, the chance of Melbourne winning are more likely. So we're going to say the D's win it by 22 points in a shit game once again. I'm going to say no side scores more than 80 points is my big call. Well, I've misplaced my West Coast scarf. I guess we're just going to go with the Adelaide scarf. Last game, we got Adelaide on West Coast. No West Coast scarf. Don't know where I put that. This could actually be an alright game now, the fact that the Eagles are starting to play some pretty good footy now. These last games on the Sundays involving West Coast may not be as irrelevant anymore with how they've been playing. Feeling bad for Adelaide now because the fans probably have had enough of so many heartbreaking losses. Were they robbed? Initially, I thought so. I definitely thought it was borderline with how far you ran, but I thought, he only had like 14 steps. I know it was like 24 meters when they calculate it, and yes, that is running too far. I just feel like in the moment, you just play that on, see what happens, a close, exciting finish. Controversial there, and it was a controversial finish because now after that moment with Rankin, he's going to be out for the next 3 or 4 weeks with a soft tissue injury. So a bit of a double whammy for the Crows there. No win, no Rankin, and it's disappointing because Rankin's it's super impressive so far this year. He's just consistently getting better. So disappointing for Adelaide, but you'd think they most likely get the response back at home. They just need to. They just have to beat West Coast. They probably want to win decently well. I mean, it's a different West Coast side. It's not a West Coast team that you can just lock in a 10+ goal win against anymore. Gone are the days that occurred last year where I think Adelaide won by like 120. But just like the Suns, I'm not convinced with the Eagles away. They're not really that great of a side away. They definitely play now some strong footy at home, but I wonder how they'll keep up away against a pretty decent Adelaide side when they want to be. Waterman right now is the best forward in the league, so maybe he's going to have another good game where he kicks 4 or 5 goals. Harley Reid, the glazing is quite massive, but fair enough when the kid like that plays as good as he did against the D's on the weekend. That incredible goal in that first quarter was just outstanding, and he fended off Oliver and bloody Petrarca. So he's going to be a star, probably a lock for the rising star as long as he doesn't get injured. I think the Crows, they'll be hungry after a disappointing loss against the Pies where they probably should have won. They'll want to bounce back. They're the better side. I'm going to say the Crows get the job done in the last game by 37 points with Waterman and Walker to combine for 8 goals. Just quickly, we're locking the Joker right now. For those that want to know how to lock in the Joker, just click on Joker and then you can click the comps used for the Joker. So we're going to use it in both competitions, myself and Rolls Macca. I know at the moment the videos have sort of just been the vlogs and the tips. It doesn't help how I've lost my hard drive, but yesterday I did film 2 videos, so I'm trying to see if I can release them over the next couple of days, so I at least have some more videos to get out that isn't just the tips and the vlogs. I want to make things a little bit more creative, a little bit more unique. Definitely annoying that I can't release the gather end vlog at the moment, but maybe if I get that footage back, eventually I can release it over the next week or 2. So we'll see what happens. Not great. It's annoying, but we move on, and we'll see you soon, hopefully tomorrow for another video.